그래서 장슈 셈바 아니 장슈 셈게제 안 장슈 셈베 도바송 안 도바송제 아니 돈바디 동아이나 내가서 돈바 동아이는 동아 지와 중고래 동아 지와레스 안디 멤베게다 장슈 셈 게네 돈바마 송바이네야 장슈 셈 동아이나 디버신도 첨보차기 디버신도 첨보래 디버 지와레스 디버 첨보래 장슈 셈 되네게 동외 자동 중국어를 해야지. 되네 인사 되네 좋아이나 되네 디버 침보 게야다 안디 멤베게다 셈제 탐제레 팬도 루비게 된 자주 셈 냠네 집에 땡레 냠바 인사 아니 셈제기 된 두발이야 아니 개침부터 두고 된 만바레스 인사 원도시는 쉬제다 된다 인보랑 아니 항아서 같이 오르스네 아니 장슈 셈 개바이나 대소하는 지기 장슈 셈의 편제 장슈 셈데 만년 바제는 야고 송고고래 해야다. 당한 주 장슈 셈 개매나야 당한 주 장슈 셈 안지게 야 아니 매바다 연된디게 편제 장슈 셈 개야야 남야 아니 가서래 지게 료양마쇼지 배준제장도 장슈 셈 개야다. 그디나 장슈 셈 개 돈다래 and Binyam Jewore setting out. Xinda Dining Boru did Shirua.
Good evening. So last week we looked at two verses which presented that new bodhisattva who has now generated uncontrived bodhicitta and then has either gone on to receive the vow of the bodhisattva or is yet to receive the vow of the bodhisattva, but nevertheless has aspiring bodhicitta. Such a bodhisattva, should their bodhicitta degenerate, should they lose their bodhicitta, this would be a downfall. If the bodhisattva has engaging bodhicitta and loses it, it would be a downfall from the bodhisattva vow. Or if the bodhisattva has aspiring bodhicitta, so is yet to take the vow of the bodhisattva, they would incur great negativity by losing their bodhicitta. And bodhicitta can be lost by either abandoning a single sentient being, feeling that this one individual I've had enough of, I will not help, I abandon you for now and always. Or one can lose one's bodhicitta by feeling attainment of enlightenment. It's going to take so long, so much hardship, it's too much for me. In either of these ways, one can lose one's bodhicitta. So the meaning then for ourselves is, whilst we are training in bodhicitta, to strengthen our resolve through recalling its benefits, so we become deeply habituated to the benefits of bodhicitta, so that when we become a bodhisattva, those benefits are vividly clear to us. And then no matter the hardships we encounter, especially as a new bodhisattva, when our bodhicitta is quite fragile, we do not succumb to any thoughts to give up on our determination. So from now, we should reflect on the benefits of bodhicitta and strive that no matter what circumstance we encounter, to always hold others as dear.
Shengan Giji Zamya di Sunam Barche Gejeba, Simjin Dola Menjurbe di Mandu Mutames.
Turning then to the next verse, the 9th verse of the 4th chapter. Should someone, even for just an instant, hinder or obstruct a bodhisattva's merit, as the welfare of sentient beings has been impaired, their unfortunate rebirths will be without limit.
Dadilia Shenga Giji Zamdia Sidibin Shen Gang Simjin Shandagi Shandaji that Janjusam Maimba Simjin Janjusamba Maimba to Mikuma Si Shenga Dinisiki and the Janjusimbalia and the Janjusembigi and Yamlan Chevalia to Parchicheva in us or Parchicheva in Divachimosa Gores or Shenga Giji Zamdia Sunam Barche Gacheba, Janju Sembati, and Yamlin Chebala, and the Gawa Chebala, Barche Chebaina, 개체바나 아니 디바 침모사 고레세지.
Looking at the first two lines, should someone, so someone then here refers to a non-bodhisattva, an ordinary being. So should such a person then hinder or obstruct a bodhisattva in their virtuous activities, they would accumulate great non-virtue from doing so.
제사다 전시선바들라 나중에 바치 제발에 뇌기리아다 즉 릭몽부 연구로와 이게 그디네 또뒤 몽부 네 그디네 전시선바들이야 네 균주제야다 뇌버 직기야 연구로와 이게 뇌비기야라서봐 이제 검자발이야 바치죠 검자 맞추봐 이제 양 되네기 냠내 제발 뇌다 이제 전시선비야 꿀내야라 소바다 되네게 발시바 몽구로와 제사다 되네게 제바던 균중부 되네게 제반데다 디바 빠도메 바사고 레지레 제사 디바 침보사고 레스 다 베네 자주셈바디 네 냠네 제바 공검자야다 되네게 샹레 펜버트와 갸침부트야리아 되네게 발시 제바이나 네 가르소레 디바 빠도메 바사고 레스 디바 침보사고 레스 디 대수 디바 첨부 사바 마세 안에 시행야 기직 잠세도 베니 충충직 전시선바직이 뒤 기직직 통통직 충충직서다 베니 전시선바직이 시행지리아 칼라사야 칼라지 지기여베나 디제마주제 될야 바시체베이나 제산 기직직스야 디스월 다 균능부 다와당 로당 안데네게 제반도 디바 첨부 인데임 되네게 전시선바되기 뒤기지질 뒤지질이야 시행질이야 칼라데기 진바 칼라지데기 되네 칼라감 감가세 감가지 때기 도시네 진바다도 갑라 어델이야 진바다마 주지 바시제 바제바이나 안나 제사 기지점 양디스 양세디 망부되네게 냠곰자다 되네게 야첨보자도 뒤망부 균능부진다 디바 첨부 슈레스 디마제 기지주 뒤질이야세 감지 파데제 전신바디 진바땅이두가 갑라 델리아 진바땅이라 바시케체바이나 제자 전신바 수남 진바땅죠 수남사야기 산지오고바 토비유 아니 수남사야리아 바시체바 기아체바레스 제자 디바 베마스 침보사고레 제 디바 침보사고레스
Looking at the first couple of lines. So should someone again, being an ordinary person, should they, even for just an instant, so, here we should understand this, even just an instant, refer not necessarily to a brief moment in time, but it most commonly or would refer to a very slight manner, so in a small way, hinder or obstruct a bodhisattva's merit. There are many ways to hinder or obstruct a bodhisattva's merit or bodhisattva's virtuous activities. For example, either talking disparagingly about the bodhisattva, criticizing them, or maybe hindering them in their meditation, or perhaps stopping them from directly engaging in virtuous activities to help others. So there are many ways where one can either directly impede the bodhisattva, or indirectly through talking about them and thereby making people doubt them or not trust them. And moreover, one can impede them in either directly engaging in beneficial acts for others or indirect beneficial acts such as engaging in their meditations. So there are many ways that one can hinder or obstruct the bodhisattva. And if one does so even in a minor way, such as, for example, insisting that a bodhisattva should not give food to one person. So this is a minor beneficial act, but even hindering the bodhisattva from such a minor virtuous act is hindering the bodhisattva from engaging in their progression towards the attainment of enlightenment. Therefore, it slows down their attainment of Buddhahood. It also prevents them from easing the suffering of a being. So therefore, hindering a bodhisattva in any way, directly or indirectly, and even in a minor way, this creates great non-virtue.
Nadinegi Jimbataya de la Pache Chepena, Jimbataya Pache Chia, the Surum Soya la Pache Chia, and Dinigi, that Jimamungorva. Just a Dinigi Jimbataya say, Chicken Simjilia, Kalaj, Pache Chevena, the Pache di Kalamati Baka, Tuguri Tugmar said it to go mother. Because you call Kanji Soso Rangi, Pache Chegi, Kulon Diniki, Pache Chena, that is a Sosung and Pache Dil Divasasare. Bendigo call a calamity many vegetarian Yorvada. In and out to Dugger Halat and says Dinigi, Mate said that Dinigi, you want to share your this a Pache Chen, Jeva in a Suzuki, Pache Chegan, the Kulungutone, Kulungoje, Dine, Pache Chawachan Ches Howard, Chesa, Gentiba, Sagor, the Penny Pajo Delegi, Jimbati, Dama Tuba Yungur, Dama Tuba Yungurwade, that's what you see.
There's the ways, so we have here, even for just an instant. So again, understand this not just to reference as a period of time, but in any way, including a minor way. So take this in a very broad sense, that's even just for an instant. So one may hinder a bodhisattva in terms of their practice of generosity or in terms of their ethical restraint and so forth. So in any way that one may hinder or impede a bodhisattva's virtuous activities, one would accrue non-virtue. And even if one is not successful in impeding the bodhisattva, but having the wish to do so is sufficient to accrue non-virtue. So for example, if you discourage the bodhisattva from giving food to someone, but the bodhisattva ignores you and gives the food anyway, so practices generosity anyway, because of your wish to hinder this person in their virtuous endeavors, you accumulate non-virtue.
Isa da dinigi jenyu semba digi garisane kunlo semja tamje koyu dunga lo dreje sangi sala goben di za korong semja tamje sangi goban topu gore jisa sangi goban topu za sangi goban tobi chidu jimbi parchin nyamnendi ane yoso zobe chirdo andi chidu kunlo dinigi semja tayegi 탐제기 된다 삼다 톱자 산지고 봐 토비 시도 삼다지 지바 두시네 엔지바 등고로 봐 지산디 왜 마시 체도 저와 sem전 탐제 톱자 안에 에가서 산지고 방디 된다라 산지고 봐 토비 유 산지고 봐 토바에는 sem전 탐제냐 냠능이 림바 취 된제 안타르 야 산지 살다 탈바다 탐지 기모 고발로 거버 제바 인자 대기 된다 진바다 진바 마시 선남 첨부 진주게 대부 첨부 쇼시 용고로 봐 데네자 데네기 진바디를 야 바시체 가반사 아니 디버 첨부 사기 예사지도 디버 첨부 시고 사고 봐 김전으로 차고다 뉴다 바가야 되세 감직제야 가고르디나 다 디버 첨부 용으로 해서 용나데 간데 용어서 디 진바디 전심바 동안 디고 꿀롱라 셈자 탐지게 되나 삼다 셈자 탐지 디유르에 동아시가 삼다 디 된다라 셈 산주 고바 토고데 디 토베게 된다라 진비 냠는 도스진 능거 바자 디에네 개와디 신도네 랍치무슈 진자 안 딜 바바시 지가도 아니 디버치무 사고를 저래
The reason why impeding or obstructing a bodhisattva has such an outsized result for the person doing so, why it's such a greatly negative deed, is not so much about what the bodhisattva is being impeded from doing, but because of the remarkable motivation of the bodhisattva. This is why it's such an outsized non-virtuous deed to impede a bodhisattva from their virtuous endeavors. Because a bodhisattva has as their enduring motivation to benefit each and every mother sentient being, and to benefit them by leading them to attain their own enlightenment. And therefore, all the various ways a bodhisattva interacts with others, directly and indirectly, has that as its final motivation. So the various activities of the bodhisattva may appear to be, or may actually be, quite minor and insignificant. But the motivation behind those activities is quite remarkable. And therefore, because of the quality of the motivation behind the virtuous deed, the merit that the Bodhisattva accumulates is extensive. So whilst from the outside, this person may be seeming to do something worthwhile, one will be unaware that because this person is a Bodhisattva, they have this incredibly vast motivation. By helping in this one small way, they are actually have as their heart wish to be helping through this deed each and every being, and not just in this particular way, but to lead them to enlightenment. So by impeding them in some way, we are impeding them from accumulating great waves of merit that would be vast, incomparably greater than if, say, someone ordinary like ourselves were to engage in that similar act. And again, because of the quality of the motivation of the Bodhisattva. So this is why obstructing a Bodhisattva is such a greatly non-virtuous deed.
Janju Sembati, Simje Tamji, Danda Juya, Dun, Tamji Kimbo Kopon, Yurdu Tobala, Yotoale, Barchi Gores, Barchi, and the Gawadipa, and Pasa Membam, Yambarchi, Gimachu to Shiva was, the Neza Divachimusa was at the Dimzarachet, the Jitanda, the Jitan Shiva Jivata, that the Siktirua, Simje Gula, Mendu be said.
And the reason why impeding a bodhisattva is so non-virtuous is stated in the third line, as the welfare of sentient beings has been impaired. So this is what happens when someone impedes the virtuous deeds of a bodhisattva. One impedes the benefit that would otherwise have come to all beings, even though you may have prevented a bodhisattva helping just a handful of beings, because of the motivation of the bodhisattva, which is motivated to action. The bodhisattva is motivated by helping these few, may I help each being without exception, one thereby impedes benefit coming to all beings. Now, just to say as an aside, to get the meaning across more clearly, this word that is commonly translated as welfare also can be translated as meaning or purpose. So therefore, it can be or objective. So one can understand then that the very purpose of the bodhisattva, or the very purpose of helping beings, this is what is being impeded. Hence, it's such an outsized non-virtuous deed to impede a bodhisattva.
Denegi tipo chimbo saba inza, and that's denegi gansati tipo sadi, the parche kendi and gansati, di ngandro mutame sidu. That didn't hold Divachimos and the Jawa Nasolpa and Jawa Drangme Babe, Mutames and Drangame, Mambu, Jawa Mambu, and Ya, and Nasolma, Jawa Lengen, Delia Dram, Jawa Mambu, Lengen, dinner, Nasong Duan Yonga Chago Legend.
And the verse concludes with the fourth line. Their unfortunate rebirths will be without limit. Our rebirths come about in dependence on causes, and when the cause that ripens is a propelling imprint, if that is non-virtuous, especially greatly non-virtuous, or can only lead to rebirth in the lower realms. And therefore we recognize that because of the strength of the imprint, one will end up being reborn for eons in the lower realms.
That jige angajuge pine mi shanda jimba tande jimba matna se jadi odi mate ko tene nugiri se ko shi du ko kol mate se de ka yoro wa danga ruwa danga jisada ngaju phata de ko janju semba imin ha wayo marda be mi kime ji de ko janju semba imba shu ji imba ha kon de odanya mi ya horesne ya ka ya ka le ho ruwa de ruwa jisada mi deni ta de jisa ngaju Janju Semba Yina, Mai, Suina Ming of the Haku Maris, Chizamo, the Janju Semba Horon, Yamlin Nana, Kanis Nangor, Tus Nangor, order, Chiza, Mi Shengi, Jimbata, the Deniki, that Parsicheva Yina, Chitin the Janju Semba, the Denichi, Janju Semba, the public, your public Gaza, San Yellow, so that the Petit Chimbus, you Sagres, Chiza Denism, around Gansadi, Janju Semba Yime, Hago Tu Mari, Chizan Gesi Janju Semba, the Denishin, the best Sagres, the main big me, Janju Semba Maina, Simjin Shanda, Jigashan, Jilia, and the Chimbatan, Kawasava, the Persian, the Tiba in the Yi, and then Membigata, the Ji, the Niki, Parsicheva, and the Tinikansadi, Chimbatan Gansadi, Janju Semba, Papi Gansada, San Yeru, by the Tiba bottom of a Sagre, Samje, Dininza, Shengi, Kawa Chevalia, Barsichevalia, Sim, Bayu Tianje. And the chick Bayuti, Dindig Kewalia, Barsimisheba, Shengi, Dindig Kewa Chebajilia, Jesu Ranchin, Dusin, Jensaman, Dusin, and Go, Egida.
The meaning of the verses is that we should ensure that we do not hinder anyone from engaging in virtue, including, or most certainly also including, minor things. So if we were to say to someone, oh, don't help that person, or don't give food to that hungry person, etc., whatever it may be, we should not impede others from engaging in virtue. Because, for a reason presented here, we do not know who is a bodhisattva or not. We have no way of knowing who is a bodhisattva or not. And in fact, the being we impede may in fact be an Arya bodhisattva, and thereby because of the quality of the motivation is even greater. Therefore, the strength of the non-virtue is that much greater. So because we have no way of knowing who is and is not a bodhisattva, we should take this then as encouragement, not to obstruct others from helping others, whether they are helping directly or indirectly. We should rely on conscientiousness to ensure that we do not impede them in any way, but moreover, we should rather appreciate the help they're giving to others and rejoice in the help they are giving to others, again, whether directly or indirectly, minor or great.
Yang Jikdeve in the middle Deve, Simjan del Deve, and the Simjil Nuish, Sally, call a Pembi, Sabla, Nugan, Chikanga, Governor, Majessica, quote the nigger how over Gumzingi, the nigger Gumzingi sometimes, or the call a new to Guri, quote the Nishidu, call Nazi Chagre, the Nish, some Kunlo, some Butone, Maje said, quote Gumsete, Diva child, Diva Sky Marvadi, who Garson, Korong Pensimitone, Shigoro, Mado. Then Chimade said, Chike. Gumchen Hai Mevajan, the house Matis Sakaya Chita, Yanchi Pajesa de Nawa Matoji, Maha, or call Matis Sakaya La Sopada. Yan taken Midi Dele and Nawa Matovich, or call Matis Sakaya La Sopa, the name Guruvada. Didn't say that Diva Chimbos, she had you at Chagua, Madayaji, Piggy Deva in a Pini Jessa Delia. Paying it subla, New York, but call a gun stick about how good or the Mate Denise said to Sheven, Yankabine, the Yan Gasore, Diva Child, Diva Yamara, the young Marcus, Pajut the Pembe Semi Gunelagin, and the Chica called Mate said Legorwa. And the Pamate se Pal, Laptandile, need water, some Gulantane.
So there is an exception to this, and that is where you impede someone from engaging in something that would be virtuous because you have a valid reason for doing so. So, for example, if someone is giving food to someone who's hungry, that is a virtuous deed and one should not impede that unless one has a valid reason. For example, you know that the person to whom food is being given has, for example, an allergy, and the food that is being given will harm that person. Maybe they'll be ill or even die from the food that is being offered. So there, very clearly, there's a valid reason to tell the person who's making the offering not to do so. So what makes this illustration stand out is that the person has a motivation. The person doing the impeding has a motivation to help, to be of benefit, not with a motivation of either harm or even indifference, but a motivation to benefit. So it's specifically having a motivation to benefit and having thereby having motivation to benefit together with having a valid reason. One can then impede what would otherwise be a virtuous activity. If one's motivation is negative or even indifferent, so not necessarily negative, then impeding a virtuous activity is non-virtuous. So the only exception is where one has a wish to help and a beneficial motivation and has a valid reason.
Gümsen samla dang chine andu chine shen lia shen gi jimba da ya la de ne ge an ji ge parsin me shen chine ya go ma sen parsin me je ba da an de lia ji sui ra che shen gi da de ne gi jimba da be ya go re sen be ji sui ra che ka sen ji sui ra che de ne gi jimba dang sa dang hen ga sa di jan shu sen ba pa ba de ne ge sang ye la so pa ji yun ba yin da so so gi de ne gi ji sui ra che na so so le pain about me chagoro pain about me segoro jesa di membe da mi shen kyuma ji ne shen ji la jimba ta ba le ya go le san be ga ko me jesu ira je ne ge wa sa yoro jesa shen ji ge wa je ba la jesu ira je ba na zo ge wa le sa ji jesa di ne za chen sen ba di ge jesa sem le sem ba yu shen le di ne ge ne be che yue san ba ji ge ne be de ne ge sem pa samdaji pa sungje gajin sem geyu chu samdaji jesu irang dusin samdaji and dusin nyamle nangore eseji no danda disungore da.
And further, to be skillful, when you impede someone from engaging in something virtuous because you have a valid reason, rejoice in that person's wish to be of benefit. So, for example, where you stop someone from offering food to someone else because you know they have a food allergy, nevertheless rejoice in their wish to make that offering. Because then, not only have you done something worthwhile with a good motivation and you've prevented harm coming to someone, but you've also rejoiced in their wish to be of benefit, thereby created merit. And a third part is you can also think to yourself, but perhaps this person who I've prevented now, or I've stopped now, from offering what would have been harmful food, perhaps they are Bodhisattva. So I thereby have now created a good connection with this being. And this is something very fortunate. So in this way too, one rejoices in one's virtuous activity by helping someone, preventing someone from creating harm. So this is a skillful way when stopping others from engaging in virtue, still rejoice in their virtuous motivation, perhaps even express that. And in this way, one creates extensive merit, even though one is stopping someone else from themselves creating merit.
제가 미 짐베다다 되게 개화 책인들에 바시 지교 말에 개화 책인들에 지단에 미수이 개화 제발 바시 제발에 디바사고레스 로아디 디바사고레스 다디 안 개화 책인디 다 전시sem바 지임바다 전시sem바 파발라서보다 되게 상계로지 되게 심베다 개화를 바시는 디바 빠도메 바사기레스 제가 저는 디바 빠도메 바사시네 디기 아니 나선 바 계시네 아니 그래서 마솔라 계제네 개와 장매 방아솔 계 동안 용을 차기래 제자디네 인자 시행기 개와 제발이야 바르시 마제 델라 제수이라제는 소소소는 사기래 제자디 대미 지마 당한데 진내래 개와 신디 장시sem바 직진의 장시sem바 인식을 직진의 상 유튜브 인식을 하고 말에 제자디네 인자 미규만이 가는 가서 하고 말지 델인자 델야 미개개의 자와 제발에 바르시 지교 말에스 바시 마제 디 콘족이 개화 제발 지수 일하제 삼당고래 디지 지수 일하제 바이나 소소 개화레스 개화사고레스 바시 제바나 디바사고레스 안데니게 개화 바시 제세 유디 전시sem바 진다 디바 빠도메 바사지네 데니 나솔 무담메바 용어에 용이 동안 용어 차고레스 데니기 가사 지수이라 제용도 데니기 자와 개회 자수 제와 지수이라 제가 가사데 파베 가사다 전주선 파베 가사 상이 진배는 소소라 개와 받으면 봤사기레스 제가 두스는 냠는 제고레스 제가 나중에 파초데 전주선 바이 상이 주반 가이 미규마 이면서 하고 말에 제가 한 먹어서 델리아 파삽섭제 개와 집을 바치 맞이 지수이라 제 냠는 제고레스 내가 저를 납제 두스는 거다.
The advice that Shantideva is giving to ourselves is pretty much the same as that which is given to Bodhisattvas. We should not encourage others from engaging in virtue. All beings require virtue or merit in order to be able to spiritually develop, in order to encounter wanted or happy experiences. So we should encourage others from engaging in virtue. We should encourage others to engage in virtue. We should not impede. And to help encourage us not to follow afflictions and impede others from engaging in virtue, we can use the reasoning presented in this verse by Shantideva, that we do not know who is a bodhisattva. So when we impede someone from engaging in virtue, it is non-virtuous even if it's an ordinary being, but if it's a bodhisattva, or in particular an Arya bodhisattva, that non-virtue is incredibly strong. So therefore, we should guard our mind and ensure that we do not act under the influence of afflictions, for example, impeding others from virtue, or acting in an unskillful way, and thereby impeding others from engaging in virtue. Rather, we should encourage others where appropriate, and certainly within, we should appreciate the help that others are showing, and we should rejoice that they are doing so. And by rejoicing in the virtuous deeds of others, you are accumulating merit yourself, as well as the person engaging in the virtuous deed. So this is a skillful way to respond. So in addition to guarding one's mind from being under the influence of the afflictions and impeding others from engaging in virtue, in addition to that, also rejoice in their virtuous endeavors. This is a skillful way to engage with others or interact with others.
Yesa denegi yesa shiwale chimbe ngazulia labje denegi ta gansa dene pape gansa da janju sembaro su dene chimbe ki suira jebane ke about me saigores yesa sembaye ngazuline sembaye de nyomombe denegi chosu madawa che semge yu chosu dangje ji suira samdangore saji dosene ngazugi dos labje nangorwada ngazugi da digi sikdigi ngazugi nyamsu lengoya de ngazu chu dwanda de ngazu li jaya de dene shagure ma jago gorwada.
So therefore Shantideva is saying explicitly here that we should rejoice in the virtuous deeds of others, and to ensure that this becomes part of our very existence, our way of thinking, we should rely on conscientiousness to ensure that our mind is not on the side of the afflictions, but on the side of virtuous ways of thinking, and thereby rejoice when we recognize good in others, rejoice when we see good being displayed in the world. Here I want to refer to a verse from Chandakirti's supplement to the Middle Way. So the 12th verse from the first chapter. He too, through the context of giving, will sometime soon encounter an Arya being, then correctly severing the continuity of samsara, as a result of that, will progress to peace.
주기 짐바다디가라 짐바다한테 군로 야고 시켜는데 야고사게와 야고사기를 군로 야고 매වෙ네 다 소소라랑기 네세야다 네네 소소게 네 나서 세유 된다리 짐바다나 네 타야다 내가 짐바 네 나서 타야 소소가 나서 나기도 네 짐바다나 나서디 타야 된다리 짐바다야 소소게 안지레가르시 dondayago juyago dondalaya chongro jene ta ji lamre yago yang de jimbata kunlo denish keje jimbata wa inayang ne gabrielia senen baut me wasa yongures 그래서 진바 당사기 진바 당규여 봐나 진바 당사들이야 전주세마 파파되게 아니 지게 매 진바 랭가 피고래 저래 지난달 배주가라 다 진바 랭가 피가라 나소용으로 뺀 가브리엘미 지게 규메기미 교회 남바도네 배아용구래 가브리엘미 아지게 라미 넘버 2다. 양지 랍중의 넘버 2 말아서 봐. 되게 넘버 강 드라마 지게 나서 된지 배 연구로 봐. 제가 되게 진바답이 되게 소수게 군노려야 소수게 내나서 자야 소수게 아니 지게 총다 되게 남자와 남로 영향하게 된다라 군노 되게 제제 진바당고 어릴 때 되게 진바답이 갑라 되게 진바당사 유디 파베 강사지 이 값체가 있나? 안저 디안 진비에 값게 남식세스도 제산 진바 나비 값 되려야 안 남식세 뒤지 값 찍을야 안 파베 가서 진바 있나? 안 개와 바도면 봐사게 예제래다 디안 진비에 값이 나이세 파베 개와 당체 파베 되는 진바 다수 유도 파베 가서 전시선 파베 가서 지 그도 계속 봐 있나? 되는 개와 당체 근데 요 톱스 쓰는 바도면 봐사고 예제래.
So I'll read the verse again. He too, through the context of giving, will sometime soon encounter an Arya being. Then correctly severing the continuity of samsara, as a result of that, will progress to peace. So the first two lines here are what I want to draw your attention to. He too, through the context of giving, will sometime soon encounter an Arya being. So this is very relevant for ordinary people such as ourselves, because when we practice generosity, all too often we have a very mundane result, motivation. Perhaps we just doing so because we want to receive some benefit for ourselves. So, for example, make offerings to create merit for success in business or to improve your own health, etc. Knowing that success in business or good health comes about in dependence on merit, one makes practices generosity so as to gain such benefit for oneself. So this is a very mundane way to practice generosity, but we should take heart that even if that is one's motivation, one may still accumulate extensive merit, because Arya Bodhisattvas, they manifest as recipients of generosity so as to help beings, so as to help ordinary beings like ourselves to accumulate merit. So having the wish to be of benefit, an Arya Bodhisattva may well appear before one in a guise that one would seek, one would want to help, one would want to offer charity towards. And because this person one is giving to turns out to be an Arya Bodhisattva, oneself has no idea, but that is the quality of mind within this being. One's merit one accumulates is so great, is far greater than otherwise would be, because of the quality of the object or the being to whom one is making the offering. So therefore, Chandrakirti is saying here in these two lines, through the context of giving, will sometimes soon encounter an Arya being. Without being aware of it, we will at times make offerings to Arya beings, to Arya Bodhisattvas. They will appear in our midst, so as to be a recipient of our generosity and thereby help us accumulate merit.
이나다 선음 첨부 사야디 임내 가래랍네 다지게 푸세디 진바탄세 유디 전주선바 파바 전주선바 파바디기 다심전 타 제게 디유 세야단 동아 세야단 디유 주비하게 된다라 아니 심제 상주고 바 토베시도 냠nen지의 군노 뒤다 남바군의 현례 펜베 삼로 군내 라지 펜버 주고요 바스나 델리아 푸베네 푸예시라베네 선음 바도메 바스 선음 첨부사고래 제로하다 선음 사고레스 지사 데니기 푸요데 데니게다 짐발림비게 전시선바디기 전시선바 파바디기 몰람제고 그래서 몰람 다디 짐바땅가 가사디 베콜리아 안지게 데니게 안지게 셈바상바기야야 다지게 야보야야게 고유 동안을 탈바도 탐지긴 보고 뭐 토에 토버쇼시비기다 두신 몰람난 거래 제래 제사다 소수게 푸세디 아니 파베 가사디제 파베 가사 푸세디 디기 선음 첨부사 아니 파베 가사디 몰람제 Molam de la dene, and Dini Jawaya Chayada, and the Mahobana, and Jiggy, Jashism Dini Papa Digi, and Dini Koni, and Delia, Jashis Papa Conley, Chute, Cochete, Kovada, Kovada, Drivig, Tabla, Yamlek Jimbat, dinner, Yamlek Jimbat, Dembala, dinner, and the Tarbi Gova, she Yadi, she was to good as a Tigni or my disorder. Dinner, see you Yada, Jiji, dinner, Jashis Papa, the whole Mahoban, and the Chute, and Digi again, the Chute, this is Yamlin, Yamsulimba, dinner, and the Gushen, she was draw to she, and then Gushen said she was Yamlin Jebala, dinner, Jebu, and Yomoba. Sabana Jeba Bombi Bomba Tarfasi or Tarfa to war edge. The Nigida, Ganjelem, the Nigga Janjisma Papa Lea Dusin Jimbat and Suzuki, the Janjit Mambana, Tarba the Tamji Himbokoban Toegi, Yusunum Sawore, the Nidik Lamsa Tarmatovene, Digi Genjin, and Janjisma Papa and Java, and Jawajun D, Jimbe Down, Jimba Down, Lamigi, and Papa Molam de Quidit, Koi D20, and the Java Chana, Mambana, and Jigge. That Gabriel Lamsa Chetemba Yungure, Gabriel Dawa Hashiko, Kajir Lo Hashiko Yungure, Kajana, Lukiawa Chimadiwa, the Nitia Yungwada, Naso Yungura, Yuludi, and the Nigatone, and Yamnek Jimbatengine, D Tonan, Ya Tarpico Malaki, Tabore, Eche, Cesa Dineza, Susugi, Jimbataya, the Nick dancer, the Anzuki Pape Gansa, Suina, Hago Marti, in a Susugi to Gang, Chikan, Chitinzi, down by in. Gabriel, public concert, the Nick Kevin, that paying bottom of Basaya down, and dig it, judges public, and Molanja, deal in a moment, judges in Pavati, Che, Diamson, Martine, and so the Tarpa Tamjiki go on top 2 days, as Sungore.
Look at the first two lines again of this verse from Chandrakirti. Through the context of giving, will sometime soon encounter an Arya being. Here what Chandrakirti again is saying is that with a wish to be of benefit to beings, Arya Bodhisattvas will appear as recipients of our charity, of our offerings, and they'll appear in the most suitable of ways, because if one is going to offer perhaps food, one is more likely to do so to someone who appears to be in need than someone who appears to have plenty. So the Bodhisattva will appear in the most suitable guise to encourage us to make merit and practice generosity. And the Bodhisattva will appear with a motivation of wanting to help each and every mother sentient being, to lead them to attain enlightenment. And to do so, the Bodhisattva will be wanting to help beings accumulate merit. So they will appear before us wanting to help us, as us who are one of the vast number of suffering beings. But they will be holding not just us dear, but all sentient beings whilst helping us. So this it gives an illustration of the vastness of the mind of the Bodhisattva. When helping one, they still hold in their heart all suffering beings. And moreover, when we interact with this holy being, with this Arya Bodhisattva, whilst we have no clue who this being is in reality, this being we are making a connection with him. And the Bodhisattva, aware of this, is making profound prayers that through this merit that we are accumulating by making this offering or giving assistance or help to this Arya Bodhisattva, through the merit that we accumulate, as well as through the connection that we are either establishing or strengthening with this Arya being, may we quickly attain enlightenment. So therefore, even though we may be acting in our normal, distracted, very ordinary way, because of the quality of the mind of the being that we are interacting with and we are creating a connection with, this merit that we are creating becomes greatly powerful and is being dedicated for us so that it can aid our spiritual development. And this may well ripen then in this life or in future lives, but will ripen in ways to aid our spiritual development. So therefore we should understand that by helping others, even in minor ways, so much merit can be accumulated. So, and then let me just read the rest of the verse, because I missed it. Geshe was now here also explaining the last two lines, which are, so I'll read the first two, I'll read it all together. Through the context of giving, will sometime soon encounter an Arya being, then correctly severing the continuity of samsara. As a result of that, will progress to peace. So the second two lines, then correctly severing the continuity of samsara, as a result of that generosity, will progress to peace. So this references the prayers that Arya Bodhisattva is making for you. The prayers that through this merit that you accumulate and this connection that has been established or strengthened, through that may you progress to attain peace or liberation.
Isa dinigi jimbalonsa jile na jedu kala dinigi jesa pabe kasa chin jikhe somane diwa chim dipka sa kewa padume ba sagire larwa sungorwa jesa dinigi da jimbalonga jile du da jimba pango ke garjin de sodam tan ji bade jorwa de milonga ji je sodam ta duschevene jesa dinigi ganji pabe kasa kevene diwa padume ba sa chagurwa jesa dinigi za di dire 지상은 되지 되다 대화를 되지 가르소는 가실에 신기 전시센바디 짐바 짐발이야 바시바는 디바침 사기래 니알이야 나 계수이라치는 겨바도 사기래 사지 가르선 사비 김전디 전시센바 원념len 제게 신sem제 탐지되는 겨바도 몇 주케인자 산요고 바투 냠내 제가자 디신 디바 사고래 제산 델레 지수이라치는 겨바도 몇 사고래 지난디 나신다지 전주스 파베 짐바다에도 파베 가서 걔네 개와 빠tum이 봤어요. 그래서 되는 짐바다에 짐마마테 같이 들려 초담단데 베 두자르선 직수보다 짐마마다 되는게 제베는 아니 디파침 봤어요. 그래서 돈 것도로 자기도 와디니다.
So I've combined this verse from Chandrakirti with the verse from Shantideva to make the point that when we interact with others, we do not know who in reality they are. So they could be Arya Bodhisattvas, and thereby therefore the way that we interact with them can lead either to extensive merit being accumulated, such as in the verse from, as shown in the verse from Chandrakirti, or extensive non-virtue can be accumulated, as shown in the verse from Shantideva. So we should take this then as guidance, that by relying on conscientiousness, we should ensure that we relate or interact with others, not impeding their virtue, but rather being virtuous ourselves, helping wherever we can, and moreover, where others are helping or being of benefit or practicing generosity, to assist them if required, but certainly to rejoice, to appreciate what they're doing and rejoice in what they're doing. Because if someone else is helping, one person is helping another, and the recipient of that help is an Arya being, and you are rejoicing in the help being given to that Arya being, your virtue that you'll accumulate is extensive. And all you've done is appreciate or rejoice in the help one person is giving another. So therefore, I've introduced the second verse, the verse from Chandrakirti, to encourage you to always be mindful, to ensure that one does not impede others from virtue, but to always try and engage in generosity and give help wherever one can.
남카 마류 타일레비 류젠 대식 메주고스.
Then the 10th verse from the 4th chapter. The happiness of only a single sentient being, if destroyed, leads to one's own degeneration. How much more so the destruction of the happiness of sentient beings as infinite as the entirety of space.
And that is semje Geshe Shenlia Jimba Tangwalia Barshe Kabaina and Tiba Chimba Sagri is it. That's Jumzenru Chagoredi. 제가 dondakhar sungorasana semjen jigi dewa yang shina danyi nyamgyur naase jisan semjen jig korongi tangan jigi bin dendro china mina dolai ji dendro ge de nen dendro ge da jigi ge je dewa nyoye gi ji nyombi delya ane ji chiba na danyi ka sore semjen jigi dewa nyoye di pa meba soba ina sushi 심지게 대화야 신나서 신나서 매버서 가서 강바요데 강바와 시바서 가고 매버서 서로 제자고 미 지나가 미루 빼샤와데 미실이야 밀리케와레 그런 미디 텐데레 미기다 디유와 저로 와다오네 제자 디니 요아디 그런 게 디기 주야 될이야 바르시 제제 콜야 지기 녀도 따야다 안베 지 강아제야라서 보다 디메비 코다벤 지게 속도로 지고 쇠바이나 디네 나고 덴드를 깨세 디위 개와 덴드기 디기 용야디 그 발치시지 매버 쇠자로와 제산디 데네그 매버 쇠네 코 속도 쇠바이나 덴 디그바디 가르쳐 시바나 다니 냠겨 소소라라 디 웅녀월게 디버사제 안 소소랑 아솔게 디바 안 동안 연구를 해서 제가 소수게 냠제 소수 개와 치마 먼저 거봐 토야 될 냠제 내가 와기 그래서는 나솔게 그래서 지상이 이게 동안 연구를 해서 아니.
So this verse then presents reasons why it is so non-virtuous to impede a bodhisattva. But firstly, then looking at the first two lines, the happiness of only a single sentient being, if destroyed, leads to one's own degeneration. So here we can think of if we impede someone from engaging in virtue. So let's say someone wants to give just some food to an animal. So it's a pretty limited, or quite a small virtuous act to an ordinary being, just an animal. But by impeding this person, telling them not to give, for example, the food to the animal, what we are doing is the animal, instead of having nourishment, maybe receiving something delicious, then the animal loses out. The animal then loses that opportunity for happiness. This is non-virtuous. We should be rather bringing benefit to others, not impeding the happiness of others, even if it's a being in the lower realms, such as an animal. And moreover, the person who we stopped from giving the food to the animal, we've prevented them from accumulating merit. So we've impeded their attainment of happiness through the accumulation of merits in future lives. So here we've impeded the happiness of two beings, both the animal, whose happiness in the immediate moment has been stopped, as well as the giver of the food, their accumulation of virtue we have stopped. So from this, we accumulate non-virtue, and such non-virtue can lead to our own rebirth in the lower realms.
Deniki digi di meba sueche, deniki dipa chimbo, dipa sabanda, soso nganso ki uwe bayna, dene namka malue tayibi luishin dishi mochi guyas. Chisa semjen tamje, ane kesore, tayibi semjen tamje, ane chipa dingi dewa, mondio ka tarbi gopang, tarbi kasa tamje kembe gopang toyagi di, dingi dewa tobyarila mbarshi cheba inanda, dan dipa chimbo sa yi marwa, si shewayo maresi wurda.
What's presented in those first two lines is non-virtue is accumulated by even impeding an ordinary being helping another ordinary being in a minor way. So we should understand this to, of course, mean on a broader level too, if we were to impede someone from helping many people or helping in a great manner. So we should therefore refrain from impeding others' virtuous endeavors. Then the third and fourth line, how much more so the destruction of the happiness of sentient beings as infinite as the entirety of space. So these two lines then refer to when we impede a bodhisattva. a being who holds all beings dear in their heart. Impeding such a being then will have a far greater non-virtuous result.
심지어 남과 타다님의 심지어 탈레베게 대화 시바시도 제가 심지어 탐제 전주sem바디 가르지 전주sem비게 심지어리아 펜버주제 심지어 탐제 고유 동아 타달 주제 상기 살 거야기 전주sem바디게 진배 냠내 라서 개와 din 두고르바 제가 델레 바르시 제바 있는 심지어 탐제 상기 공원 토와딜레 바르시 고르바다 그래서 전주sem비게 디게 냠내 제바 콘솔레 판도 두야 딜레 바시 제가도 심지어 탐제 상기 고방 띵기 대화 네 디게 상기 고방 토야디 디게 띵기 대화 상기 고방 토야딜이야 대화라나 메바 토비에디 토비엘레 바르시 고르바다 제가 디니기 디야 심지 직마임베 심지 탐제로 심지 탐제기 디기 라나 메바 상기 고방 토야디 토비엘레 바르시 지고요 바자 디버디 바도메바 차고레 디버신도 시고 차고르바스 제가 심지 지기 대화리야 느기 제주 코 속도 다면에 디버사지냐와 나설 기고요다 다 심지 탐제 된 탐제단 제비게 아니 탈두게 대화 남기 상기 고방 토야딜이야 바르시 제반데다 디버 친구 연구로 와서 그러다 딜레시 뭐하지 디버 친구 이 말해서 그러다 뭐지고였어.
Remaining then with the third and fourth line. When a bodhisattva is helping others, even if they're only helping one person, and in a way that is quite minor or trivial, their motivation is nevertheless to help all sentient beings. They may right now be helping one, but their motivation is to help all beings through this one act. And moreover, so they may be explicitly helping one, but their motivation is through this act, may I help all beings. And moreover, whilst they may be helping this one being in a very common way, ordinary way, nothing special, their motivation is through helping in this ordinary way, may I lead this being, through this connection, through this merit, may I lead this being and all beings to attain liberation from suffering, complete peace of nirvana. So the motivation of the bodhisattva is incredibly vast, even if superficially what they are doing appears very ordinary. The quality of the motivation is inconceivable. So therefore, when we impede the bodhisattva from engaging in a virtuous deed, again, it can just be towards one ordinary being and helping in a very ordinary way. Because of the motivation of the bodhisattva, we are hindering the help the bodhisattva can give to all sentient beings, and in the greatest of ways, that of leading them to enlightenment. Because that is the motivation the bodhisattva has. And by impeding the bodhisattva, we are impeding the fulfillment of that motivation.
진비 셴리아 쟁기 디기 두야라 셴기 디기 녀야라 바시체바이나 다 심전지기 돈달이야 심전지리야 디니게 기회 자와 저 바시체바이나 디버사바이나 다 심전 바도 메발이야 디니게 디기 두야라 바시체바이나 디버침바 사이그리 제자당 한주기 셴 제시셈바 셴기 셴리아 진바다야라 소바다 셴리아 판도 두야디 두견 가사디게 전주셈바 이명한테 하고 두말 하모고서 데니게 하모고 있긴지는 소선 셈 밤에 제제 기회셔서 바유마틴 바체 두체벤데다 데니게 전주셈바지기 데니게 제바질리아 바치치고인데다 셈전 타예바 장메바 디 건축이 되게 타독 상기 요구가 토야들에 바시 지고래 되네 젠데 디버치 뭐 쇼사고래 되네 인자 다 되네게 삽삽제네 셈제 가소래 바위에 된제 샤리아 네비게 자와 마체 바위에 된제 루시네 냠는 거래서 어디 김젠데네 삼다제.
Generally, we have the wish to be of benefit to others and not to bring any harm to others. And this we try and cultivate and have as our motivation, our guiding light in how we interact with others. So we should then bear in mind that those that we interact with, we don't know who amongst them are actually bodhisattvas. And therefore, we need to be very careful that we do not impede them from helping others. We should not impede them in any way from engaging in virtue, not just the explicit acts of virtue, but the other acts with a virtuous motivation. Because by impeding a bodhisattva, we are not just stopping that one particular activity, but rather we are impeding them creating connection with others, them creating merit, them helping all beings attain liberation and enlightenment because of their motivation. That whatever the bodhisattva does is motivated to help each being, not just those they're interacting with, but each and every being. And to help them not just in minor ways, even if that is the way that they're interacting with others, but to help them through that in the most meaningful of ways to lead them to enlightenment. So therefore, we should, with this motivation to benefit and not harm, we should add to this the determination not to impede others when engaging in virtue.
그래서 집에 콜레 칼라 좀 맞는 가바는 코 칼라 사야라고 뭐 칼라 진조도 되래. 콜레 칼라 맞에서 디고 여러 와서 김전 찍들에. 김전 찍들에서 콜라 맞에라도 코 콘랑으로 코 세비기 코 콘랑으로 아니 콘랑 좀 디버에 와서 먼저 김전 되는 말도 삼다 두고 말해. 되네. 아주 칼라 가셔야 돼. 맞다야 돼. 가바는 디고 연구해서 아주 디고 연구해서 라그래. 디고 하나는 같이 연구를 합디 김전 되는이 마도 할 시투야 갈하고로 뉴뉴로와 제가 잔주선바디기게 삼다도 qabля 김전 망고 휴지 삼 코르투고 람사 제가 디나지다데 짐바타이도 qabля 가바이나 안가래 짐바타사디 잔주선바지이나 안에 가르쳐그래 고 잔주선바세 빼 샘전 탐지기도 나 삼단고래 톱자 샘전 탐지기도 산조고바 토바지고래 미베 삼로 펜션레 펜바 개침부 쉬우 주퉁엔지리아 니디드 까면다 나디버치 모용으로 와서 김센직 산다 진짜 니네 가는데 심전 탐지 는 산지 고방 토야를 꾸열이야 근데 벌시 지고래 진짜 심전 탐지 탈 산지 고방 토야기 띵예 대화 아니 대화 라나 몇번 토야 되는 벌시 지고로 와서 진짜 니한 심전 찍매 봐 심전 장례 대바가 토야 벌시 지고래 진짜 니네 인사 디버 되는 시작고래서 아니 내가 저기 심전직이야 아니 저기 마콜이야 저기 소소 다야 되 미지 전절 개반 디경영이라 바체제 강아 제제 전 디바사제 나솔게 녀와지 디바 빠도면 연구구인데 다 심전 되는시를 제바데 디바 빠도면 연구로 와 선배게 내내기 좀세 망보 삼다야다 안다 되내기 제사 디용에 바위딩고 심 밤에 온 송고 제사 바위딩고 그래 제사다 되니기 소소라는 게 개화를 제수 일이나 제외인다 되니 짐바 제간지 가사티 팝에 가사인데 말려서는 같이 빠우면 봤어야게 됐어. 그배 맛이 있으면 탐지기 된다 삼단 거 세상 알아야 안 지금 개화 빠우면 봤어야게 돼. 안 심전 탐지 디기루야 지지거자 안 심전 빠 타예 베게 된다 삼단에서 개화 빠우면 봤어야게 됐어. 되니기 김제 망보 삼단야다. 김제 전시선반은 비디니 삼단 김제 배 망보 쉬우 삼단 두고 제가 되니게 권 삼단제 Geshe Thubten Rabten.
So it can be quite difficult to understand how it is that we accumulate non-virtue by stopping others from engaging in generosity, for example. So some ways to try and understand this is perhaps to think that if we stop one person giving food to another person, the recipient, that hungry person, ends up remaining hungry because we've stopped someone else from practicing that generosity. And that then would be non-virtuous, because now someone else continues to suffer because we've impeded the act of generosity. Also, what we can understand is the hungry person who now remains hungry is probably likely to get angry at us because we prevented them being given a meal, perhaps. And therefore, the hungry person who's now angry has accumulated non-virtue, independence on us. So this we can understand. But then the further understanding to bring is that in reality, we have no idea who the people are around us at any time. We do not know in this illustration whether the person giving the food is a bodhisattva or whether the recipient of the food is a bodhisattva. We have no way of knowing. All we can be sure of is that the bodhisattvas with this remarkable motivation to benefit others will appear in any way possible to help others, not just in the obvious ways, but in ways such as we've heard tonight, appearing as the destitute, as the needy, in order to help others practice generosity, for example. So therefore, we should always rely on conscientiousness to be on guard that we don't impede the expression of a bodhisattva's bodhicitta, and that bodhicitta may be being expressed by the bodhisattva appearing as a very ordinary person, either as a recipient of charity or as the person helping. So we should guard ourselves, because we do have a clear understanding from the presentation of karma that by harming one being, even in a minor way, we create non-virtue, and it's non-virtue that leads to suffering, even rebirth in the lower realms. So by impeding a bodhisattva, because of the quality of their motivation, we will create great non-virtue. So always then, be on guard that when we interact with others, we don't know who these people are, so relate to them in such a way. And when we see others engaging in virtue, where appropriate, support them, assist them, encourage them, but certainly always rejoice. Rejoice in the virtuous deeds of others. Appreciate that these people, whether explicitly or implicitly, are helping the bodhisattvas, helping the Buddhas in their heart wish of reducing the suffering in our world. So by carrying around such an appreciation, wherever we see virtue, joy will arise within us. Wherever we have the opportunity to engage in virtue or assist others in doing so, we willingly will do so. So I encourage you to use conscientiousness and engage with others in this way.
제가 전시선바 남기 냠는 지도 qabla 다된 것도 진바 점을 빼처럼 하다 전시선바 냠는 지도가 셴기 개어 두비야야 개어 두비 발시해봐 있나 제가 되네 제스도 금전 되네 삼다제 두스네 금전 망고슈 제 삼다제 안디야 바위 된제 셴 개와 제발라 발시 마체바체 발시에게 삼로디 파숭 아니 발시 마체바 아니 개위 초 소소랑 삼로래 개위 초 지수이라 삼다지 두스냠는 거거든 전심바디기 두스난 거레스 제자다 개위 초 셴기 개위 개와 둘레 발시해야 발시제 삼다된 안주이나 다 삼로 되스마다 금제 충충이 맞다 두고 말 전심바는게 금제 빠도 매바 삼다진 두시는 삼다 두고 그래 제다 개발로지 되는 용거래.
And a further way of thinking you can bring into this is that things do not exist in the way they appear to our mind. So just because we engage in something for a specific motivation doesn't mean others will engage in something similar with that kind of motivation. Our motivations are still very limited, very ordinary. Our mind is narrow and tight. It's not at all expansive, nothing compared to a bodhisattva. So we cannot comprehend yet how they engage in the world. So by reminding yourself that things do not exist in the way they appear to ourselves. And therefore, what we perceive to be an activity that's very ordinary or unimportant may actually be being done by a remarkable being, or a remarkable being may be appearing as the recipient. So open your mind, be aware that things do not exist in the way they appear to us.
onda janju semba namgi denigi ta anchele di chigani digi gare sungorasne janju semba namgi nyamne nadu kabla shengi gewa chebalya barshi cheba ansem bayi bamedi bayi kaso bayi tenje shengi gewa chebala barshi chigo mares bayi barshi chigo marde bayi tenje ane delya and barshi mechebada and jesu iranchi gore di guys that bayi tengubi that barshi mechebi gymsendige deji shebana duchine that some gomba some dajinen bayi ten and 개발 발심매체 받아 소속이 디개발야 신이 개발 두바들이야 지수이라지 고래서 전신 받는 게 냠는 두스는 고래서도 나 두세다.
The meaning of these two verses is that rely on conscientiousness and do not impede others when engaging in virtue. And these verses present reasons for this. And moreover, the way that we should respond is to appreciate that when others are engaging in ways to help others and rejoice that they are helping others.
지게 게시와라 침비가 납자 나야다 나오지 디테네 나오지게다 다디디 전시선 바코노지게 두스는 거라서 파시 송로 주주하다 다디 나오지를 파냠는 제로 소소 나오지를 소소 자야들로 자야들 다지바 나오지나다 나오지 김세 삼다 오당이 미션지 개와지버지를 발치 체바인다 디 지단에 셈제 멤버직이네야 미 현기 개와지발을 발치는 디버사고래 되게시 되네게다 개화지간 가사디 파베 가사다 전유선바로지다 되네지 산유 주바로지 인선다 디버 빠르면 봐야래 제사 심전 탐절이야 한디기 주비할 발시 제바 차고래 제사 되네 장에 되네기 현기 개화주빌이야 발시서 있는 지금이야 선비 삼다 지다 안델이야 현기 다 소수기 현기 개화주바들 소수기 판도던 로지 두번의 강투도 제 지기 삼매다 안디 현기 디마투네 현기 개화제바들 야고래 산 제수이라지 마음바네 전시선 받는게 두스 냠는 거래 네네 되네지 딘 전시선 받기게 냠는 나와나 진정에 냠는 제투버 쇼사다 현기 개회 제바들 네네 마음바데 무디신 건전하신 개화디 냠는 제투버 쇼선 비게 제수이라 두스는 삼다베나 당한지 디범마사바제 안데 되니기 제수이라제 제산 제수이라제기 가사디 되네 그시 전시선 받아 파보에 가사 계속만 임바이나 당한줄수는 받으면 봐서요. 와스 디네 잔다 경주네 냠네 두스난 고래서 당한줄이다 지진이 되게 된다라 두삼다제 당한줄이 삼나다다 두스타이와 디네기 삼다벤데 당한줄이네 두시 삼당이 되지도 디네 현기 개화체벌 발치체벌은 디네기 김세 마마 삼다데 셈로디 야야도데 디네 김세 마사 또 나투야 제수이나 제바에는 개화 개치버사투고 김세 마사도야 돼 두소슝구라 디네 가제 김세 마마 삼다 두어쯤기 레어디 디네게 삼다다 레어디 디네기 개화디 파템 줘야다 니버처 줘야다 차고로와 그래서 당하는 두스네 냠는 난거야 돼 나즈 달랍질해야 돼 디네 삼당고래서
And for ourselves, how we should relate to these verses from Shantideva, because Shantideva is explicitly teaching for Bodhisattvas, but implicitly he's also teaching for ordinary beings such as ourselves, ordinary beings who still aspire to enter into the paths of the Bodhisattva. So what we should take from this is that to continue to cultivate this wish to ease the suffering in our world, to ensure that our interactions with others, both directly and indirectly, doesn't add to suffering, but it eases the suffering that others experience. And going along with this then, is where others have the wish to be of benefit, and they may even be acting under this wish to be of benefit, we should never impede them. We should never impede them. Rather, where we can, we should encourage or assist or support. And moreover, with this way of thinking, cultivating it again and again, this will aid our own development of the wish to help others, to be of benefit. So there, I encourage you, where you see opportunities where you can help, don't delay, don't hesitate. Extend your hand, help others wherever you can. And once again, where you see others engaging in virtue, rejoice in that. Don't allow your mind to criticize or to be competitive. Rejoice. Because what they are doing is helping to ease the suffering in the world. And thereby, they are helping the Bodhisattvas fulfill their heart wish. Where you hear, such as tonight, about how Bodhisattvas practice, that everything they engage in, even the minor insignificant things, are done with a motivation to help all mother beings and to help them in the most meaningful of ways. Try and emulate the Bodhisattvas. Emulate them by continuing to strive to cultivate this wish to benefit others, benefit them in the most meaningful of ways, and not some, but all. And where we're helping just one or two, hold the wish, through helping this being, through this merit, may I help all. And where we're helping others in ordinary ways, have it with do so with the motivation. Through this merit, may I guide all beings to enlightenment. So thereby, even ordinary deeds, or ordinary virtuous deeds, become extremely powerful. And as you think in this way evermore, your mind broadens. And tonight I presented a few reasons why we shouldn't impede the virtuous deeds of others, and I presented a few ways to show how a bodhisattva thinks. By you reflecting on this evermore, your own mind becomes broader, and you'll come up with ever more reasons why bodhisattvas will only help others, why they would never impede others, and why we should continue to follow in their footsteps.
Nyama diwa, ya diwa, sanyu jumne de shubi kablaya, ne jebo dan de sugi ba sanyu jumne de kwardike de shu she la phu or sidwa, and jebo chigi du chine she la phu je jebo horon da jebo resne da dus ni de mi mangole de ngi kala sanyu jumne de ki ni mangole ja jik de she la phu ye simbe sam da ji ko nga ye ro shi yo ro de ni yo resi orda. Esa 다지 칼라 부이서에 제라 셰라 쳐서라 상이 좀 내리야다 몰람자로시 슈고레스 제자디 번데 머니 슈슈들의 미교시어레스 미교디 베 고섬날이야 제다 예보세디 미온네다네 미 lum비 예보레 코로나스는 침보레 다 상이 디네게 상이단 긴딘 디네게 디네슈시 최법부지 쓰는 빠도메 바사고레스 베야고레스 당한 미교오레 가고 시어마다 온네다네 예보디기 디네스는 야고 시우리아 선배 지수이나 시우공고를 해야 지리 예보 거론다 지게 나저로 나지 민침보 예보 다딩아 제라를 차고였으면 되는데 아직 보고래시 지리 나군노디 디네스면 자데 개와디가 술 차고 수치에서 그래서 매니 지수이나 지금 미교디 개와시에서 그렇지 아니 예보 거론 개와 충만 사고마 지상 상이 좀네 디게다 투메나도 qab려야 매기 미교디기 민디对人家呢，那可以给我撒把拿心，安心的都是告诉的，我能过来些的。真结不钱咋的？俺也嘛就是，真这么的话的呢是，真结不个的这的，俺你家全部收起来，俺没结不起来，俺的这家全部收进去的，没叫我的那些的商业局面的那些的，开始拿什么去？那商业局面的可能俺也记得听过了吧的，可能那些岁也听过了，那商业局面的许多你们记得。당이 되네지 두수지에 안상이 교대 뭐가데 코미 소남 사바나신데 되네냐냐 직자데 헤데 가르나신 슈도하데 제다디오네 결혼미 자친부도 제버레데 결혼도미 나야로다 되네게 직해요도 군노를 지네게도 아니 개와도 충주마 저거 말해서 매기디게 선반남다 돈이 개와의 지수 이라 슈지에도 개와바도 매봐 괴시에 개와 괴시에 싸고 싸고도스 세상에 대해서 그 민도에 지금 뭐 되고 그래서 이제 사회 좀 내디 쉬버래지 안디젤이야 나 개워 줘봐게지 안디젤은 상회 좀 내디게 도시네 안에 지게 소수기 남냐다 가 매비 토네 안젤이야 도시네 진비 도시 지고 그래서 제자 상이기 두스 켄제 두스 남브레 제자 디니기 전에 상이 두스 나이든 제리안 게보디 나 디니기 나야티게 짜제는 야 최근 남바도 부여도 두스 중월에서 디니기 남다나 되요다.
Just before we conclude, to recount a story from the time of the Buddha. And the purpose of the story is to emphasize an aspect of what we looked at tonight, which was the need to be very aware of our own mind and to ensure that our mind is free from affliction, so that, for example, we don't impede the virtuous deeds of others, but rather rejoice in their virtuous deeds. We don't feel jealous or competitive when others are engaging in virtue, but we sincerely rejoice. So this is a story from the time of the Buddha, when the Buddha would be regularly invited together with all his followers to have a meal offered by the local king. So on one occasion, the king had prepared a feast for the Buddha and all the Buddha's followers, of which there were many hundreds or thousands at the time. So the feast was immense. And the meal was offered to the Buddha and the Buddha's followers. They partook and enjoyed this large offering. And afterwards, the king requests the Buddha, please dedicate all the merit that has been accumulated today and dedicate it explicitly to the person who's created the most merit today. So throughout the time when the Buddha and his followers were enjoying the meal, the king was really very full of himself at this wonderful offering that he had made, seeing all this great food that had been laid out, and he was really proud of himself. At the distance, though, outside the grounds in which the offering was made, was a beggar. And the beggar was just observing all this delicious food being offered to the Buddha and his large entourage. And the beggar's response was quite different from the king. The king was really quite puffed up at his remarkable generosity. And the beggar actually too was quite impressed at the king's generosity. The beggar rejoiced wholeheartedly in the generosity of the king, whereas the king was rejoicing in himself, in his own expression of pride. So when the Buddha was asked to dedicate all the merits to the person who had created the most merit that day, the Buddha dedicated to the beggar. And the king was amazed. How could this be? And so he demanded the Buddha to explain himself. And the Buddha made it very clear. The motivation with which you engage in a virtuous deed has a great impact on the quality of that virtue. And if your motivation, such as yours, O king, is greatly tainted by your pride, yes, you've accumulated merit today, but so little compared to what you could have accumulated. That beggar outside, they did nothing to prepare this meal. They did nothing to accumulate the wealth required to make this offering. They didn't even have the wish to make this offering today. But with sincerity, with a pure motivation, they rejoiced in your virtue and thereby accumulated so much more. Okay, thank you. Then we'll conclude there for tonight. Thank you.